For most of my 20s, I thought I was figuring my life out. I traveled to 50 countries, started multiple businesses, tried every drug under the sun, and dated every type of girl you could imagine. But I was wrong. I wasn't discovering myself. I was avoiding the fact that I didn't want to know myself. And even though I was always moving, mentally and emotionally, I was stuck. I didn't realize that there were actual stages to this thing called life, and I was stuck in the second one. There are 4, by the way. 4 stages, that is. And you know, you are probably stuck in one right now too, whether you know it or not. And this stage that you're stuck in defines everything from the goals that you adopt, to the dreams that you have, to the struggles that you can't seem to get through. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly which of the 4 stages you're currently in, why you're stuck in it, and how you can finally get out. Starting with stage 1, which is a stage appropriately defined by monkeys and cats. The copycat. A friend of mine recently woke up on his 38th birthday in the middle of a vacation that he didn't really want to be on, next to a person that he didn't really love anymore, working on a job that he no longer believed in, and it all hit him. He had no idea how he got there. He had done everything right, but it turns out he had never actually chosen his life for himself. It turns out that moment is the end of stage 1. The copycat stage, and a lot of people never quite get out of it. Now, understanding stage 1 is simple. Basically, we're born helpless, we can't walk, we can't talk, we can't feed ourselves, we can't even do our own taxes. As children, we're wired to learn by watching and mimicking others. First, we learn to do the physical skills like walking and talking, and then we develop social skills by watching and mimicking our peers around us. Now, the goal of stage 1 is to teach ourselves how to function within society so that we can be self-sufficient adults. The idea is that the adults in the community around us help us to reach this point through supporting our ability to make decisions and take action for ourselves. But some adults and community members kind of suck. They punish us for our independence. They don't support our decisions, and therefore we never develop that important autonomy. We get stuck in stage 1, endlessly mimicking those around us, living out their goals and their dreams and their ideas of what's best, endlessly attempting to please all so that we might be judged by none. In a normal, healthy individual, stage 1 will last until late adolescence or early adulthood. But for some people, like my friend, it will last way further into adulthood. A select few wake up one day at 45, realizing that they never actually lived for themselves and wonder where the hell the years went. The only way to move beyond stage 1 is to hit a point where you realize that you can't live vicariously through those around you, that you have to stand up for yourself, that you have to develop some sense of autonomy and individualism. Because ultimately, copying everyone around us all the time, desperately craving their validation, it's tiring and self-defeating. We can never discover who we are if we're always basing our opinions and actions on others. It's then that the stage 1 person develops the courage to live on their own terms that they are able to venture into stage 2. The explorer. In stage 1, we learn to fit in with the people and culture around us. Stage 2 is about learning what makes us different from the people and culture around us. Stage 2 requires us to begin making decisions for ourselves, to test ourselves, to understand ourselves and see where our limits are. This is straight up your classic young person's extravaganza, full of cringeworthy experimentation and questionable life choices. Yes, my friends, the 6-foot beer bong is looking at you. We experiment with living in new places, hanging out with new types of people, imbibing new substances, and playing with new people's orifices.
Oh my God, it's in.
In my stage 2, I ran off and tried to live all over the world. My brother's stage 2 was diving headfirst into the political system in Washington, D.C. Everyone's stage 2 is going to be slightly different because everybody's values are slightly different. Stage 2 is a process of self-discovery. We try things, some of them go well, and some of them are a spectacular failure. The goal is to stick with the ones that go well for a while and then move on. This is because stage 2 is all about figuring out who we are. That means figuring out our values. And by values, I mean trying to know what is the most important thing in our life, which pursuits and people and activities that we're willing to be defined by. Psychologists have found that living in alignment with one's values brings us a greater sense of meaning and psychological well-being. It keeps us motivated and excited about the challenges that we face in our lives. I actually did a full 4-hour deep dive podcast in the values, what they are and how to find yours, and how to live up to them once you have found them. This podcast is essentially the work of stages 2 and 3 from this video's framework. If you click on the link in the video or in the description below, you can head over to that podcast and get the real deep dive into this topic. Now, stage 2 is fun. because we get to feel like we can do anything. But eventually, something unpleasant starts to happen. We begin to run up against our own limitations. And despite what Oprah and Deepak Chopra may tell you, discovering your own limitations is actually a very good and healthy thing. The fact is, you're just going to be bad at some things, no matter how hard you try. And you need to know what those things are so you can prioritize your life accordingly. I am not genetically inclined to ever excel at anything athletic whatsoever. It sucked for me to learn that, but I did, and now I've adapted. We all must learn what we suck at, and the earlier in our life that we learn it, the better.
Is this the real life? Oh, is this just fantasy?
So we're just gonna be bad at some things, but then there are other things that are great for a while, but begin to have diminishing returns after a few years. For example, traveling the world. The first few countries are really exciting, but after 40 or 50, everything just becomes a big blur. Or, you know, sexing a ton of people, that's another one. Getting high on a Tuesday night, that's another one. These things, they're very exciting and novel the first time you do it, but after a while, you just start wondering what the hell you're doing with your life. Generally, anything that's driven by pleasure and novelty, the more you do it, the less interesting and valuable it becomes. Your limitations are important because you must eventually come to the realization that your time on this planet is brief, and you should spend it on people and things that actually really matter to you. That is, your values. In healthy individuals, stage 2 begins in, say, mid to late adolescence and lasts into the person's late 20s or mid 30s. There are some people who never allow themselves to feel these limitations though, either because they refuse to admit their own failures, or they get addicted to the highs that come with the novelty and pleasure of stage 2, and they delude themselves into believing that their limitations will just never exist. These people who get stuck in stage 2, I generally call it Peter Pan syndrome. They're the eternal adolescents, always discovering themselves but doomed to constantly find nothing. At some point, we all must admit the inevitable. Life is short, not all of our dreams are gonna come true, so we should carefully pick and choose which dreams are worth pursuing and which ones are worth giving up. The Martyr. Charles Bukowski once wrote, "Find what you love and let it kill you." The truth and beauty in this statement is that everything you pursue in life, in some small way, is leading you towards your death. Therefore, the logical question to ask is, what are you comfortable dying for? The way out of stage 2 is to find people and things that you care about so much, so deeply, that they are so dear and important to you, that you're willing to give your life away to them. Find what you love, and then let it kill you. Stage 3 is the great consolidation of one's life. Out go the friends who are draining you and holding you back, out go the activities and hobbies that are a mindless waste of time, then you double down on what you're best at and what is best for you. You double down on the most important relationships, and you double down on the single important mission in your life, whether that's to work on a world energy crisis or become a bitching digital artist or whatever it is. Stage 3 is when you get it done. Stage 3 ends when a combination of two things happen. Number 1, you feel as though there's not much else you're able to accomplish, and number 2, you get old and tired and find that you would rather sip martinis and do crossword puzzles all day. In normal individuals, stage 3 generally lasts from, I don't know, like 30 until one reaches retirement age. People who get lodged in stage 3 often do so because they don't know how to let go of their ambition and their constant desire for more. This inability to let go of the power and influence that they crave counteracts the natural calming effects of time, and they will often remain driven and hungry well into their 70s and 80s. What they are lacking is stage 4, the mortal. Ernest Becker was a beloved and wacky college professor in the 1960s. He was an anthropologist, but primarily influenced by Freud and Zen Buddhism, so kind of made him a weirdo academically. He came to class with props and wacky costumes, his students loved him, and his administrators absolutely hated him. Becker worked through his early career in relative obscurity, burning through one university's patients after another. Then, in his early 40s, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. He had only a year left to live. This snapped Becker's work into focus. On his deathbed, he wrote a book called The Denial of Death. It was published shortly after he died and went on to win a Pulitzer Prize. It has since become one of the most influential philosophical works of the 20th century. The core concept of denial of death is that we all spend our lives building immortality projects. The idea of these immortality projects is to build something that lives on after our death. As a result, these projects can infuse our lives with a sense of meaning and purpose that goes way beyond ourselves. The loss of them would plunge us into a deep despair. despair. People arrive in the stage 4 having spent somewhere around half a century investing themselves in what they believed was meaningful and important. They did great things, worked hard, earned everything they have, maybe started a family or a charity or a political revolution or two, and now they're done. They've reached the age where their energy and circumstances no longer allow them to pursue their purpose any further. Stage 4 then isn't about doing more, it's actually about letting go. You've spent decades building something, a family, a career, a mission, a movement. Maybe you succeeded, maybe you didn't, but eventually your body slows down, your ambition dulls, and you're left wondering, did any of this actually matter? That is stage 4. The shift from building a life to being prepared to outlive it. And this is where the fear of death creeps in sideways. Not as a fear of dying, but more of like a fear of disappearing, of being forgotten, of becoming irrelevant. Some people respond by doubling down, working into their 80s, clinging to power, fighting change. Others give up too soon, resigning themselves to boredom and lots of golf.
Nice shot.
But a rare few get it right. They realize that stage 4 isn't about being the hero anymore, it's about being the mentor, the elder, the teacher. Instead of asking, what can I still accomplish? They say, what can I support? What can I pass on? And the irony? This stage, which feels like the end, is actually where your influence can become permanent. Not because you did more, but because you let go at the right time and gave it all away. Stage 4 is important psychologically because it makes the ever-growing reality of one's own mortality more bearable. As humans, we have a deep need to feel as though our lives mean something. This meaning we constantly search for is literally our only psychological defense against the incomprehensibility of this life and the inevitability of our own death. To lose that meaning, or to watch it slip away, or to slowly feel as though the world has left you behind, is to stare oblivion in the face and let it consume you willingly. Growth is often portrayed as a rosy, flowery progression from dumbass to enlightenment that involves a lot of joy, prancing in fields full of daisies, and high-fiving people at a seminar that you paid way too much to be at.
And I want to thank you for sharing that with us.
But the truth is that transitions between the life stages are usually triggered by an intense pain, a loss, or an extreme negative event in one's life. Think about it. Why go through the trouble of reorienting all of your values and priorities unless the current ones have somehow failed you catastrophically? Later stages don't replace the previous stages, they transcend them. Stage 2 people still care about social approval, they just care about something more than social approval. Stage 3 people still care about testing their limits and discovering themselves, they just care about their commitments they've made much more. Each stage represents a reshuffling of one's values. It's for this reason that when one transitions from one stage to another, one will often experience a fallout in one's friendships and relationships. If you were at stage 2 and all of your friends were at stage 2, and suddenly you settle down, commit, and get to work on stage 3, yet your friends are still fucking around in stage 2, there will be a fundamental disconnect between your values and theirs, and that will be difficult to overcome. Sometimes we get lodged in a stage for years or even decades, stunting our own maturity and growth. The solution at each stage is then backwards. To move beyond stage 1, you must accept that you will never be enough for everybody all the time, and therefore, you must make decisions for yourself. To move beyond stage 2, you must accept that you will never be capable of accomplishing everything that you can dream of and desire, and therefore, you must zero in on what matters most and then commit to it. To move beyond stage 3, you must realize that time and energy are limited, and therefore you must refocus your attention towards helping others take over the meaningful projects that you began. And to move beyond stage 4, you must simply realize that change is inevitable, and that the influence of one person, no matter how great, no matter how powerful, will eventually dissipate. Ultimately, these are all projects of assessing your values and then properly prioritizing new values. If this is something that you are struggling with, then you can watch the full podcast episode on this topic, on the subject, right now here on this channel. See you there.